Welcome to Beyond the Press Release, a production of Agoracom, in which we take the time to speak with small cap executives right after they put out important news. I don't even know how to explain. Important news is the understatement of the year in what's been released by Datametrex. We've got Marshall Gunter, CEO of the company, trades on the venture and the stock symbol DM. For our friends in the US, DTMXF. For our friends in Europe, under D4G. You all know them because they've got the rare benefit that most small capers only dream of: two successful independent divisions that are each capable of being a company maker. They've got their AI-driven social media monitoring discovery side, and they've also got the COVID-19 test kit distribution. More than just lip service. I'm not going to go through all the wins that they've had. Fiscal 2020, $12.4 million in revenue, up 265%. $8 million from COVID, $4 million from artificial intelligence. If that wasn't a knockout for you, here's a press release we're talking about today, and it's not a typo. Datametrex earns over $9.56 million with over $19 million in revenue in the first quarter. Marshall, welcome back to the show, buddy.
Certainly glad to be here, George.
I would imagine you are. I had to look at that headline twice. I couldn't. Let's sum it up like this before we go to the details. You dwarf not only 2020, but I think you dwarf the entire history of Datametrex in just one quarter with $19 million in revenue, 9.5 in income. How do you feel, before we go into the details, how great is this day for you guys?
Oh, this is definitely the best day in the history of the company, bar none. And you're correct. This is more than the company's ever done in the history of the company. And it's through a lot of hard work. Like, we spent the past year setting up these businesses and, digging out of a hole. Just to put that in perspective, like at the end of 2019, when we first started this adventure with Datametrex, I mean, our closing cash position was like $100,000 and change. That's it. That's all we had to work with. So now, after Q1, our closing cash position is 4.6 million. And that's continuing to grow into Q2. And people are going to see that when they see the Q2 numbers. But yeah, as far as feelings are going, this is a pretty good one. So I believe this just, I want to say thanks to the staff and thanks to all the shareholders who stuck with us. We really appreciate it. Wouldn't have been possible without you guys. I think this validates everything we've been doing over the course of 2020.
What do you attribute the numbers to? How do you kind of roughly break them down between the AI side and the COVID-19 test kit side?
Well, this is mostly COVID on this portion of it. We are seeing the AI tick back up. We did sign some new contracts within Latte Group, and we just announced that this week. And we're seeing more interest in the AI, and we're seeing a lot of interest coming up, on the government side as the governments start to reopen. And we're also seeing a lot more interest in the private sector side. COVID put it stifled a lot of that interest over the past years, as companies didn't want to invest. The governments definitively didn't want to invest in things other than that because they didn't know how much the pandemic was going to cost them. Like, the Canadian government underestimated it by, I don't know how much.
Several magnitudes. By several magnitudes.
Yeah, several orders of magnitude. And they were way off base. And so they had to strip all their budgets in order to handle this. But, as things are opening up, like I said, we're expanding. We're actually hiring on that front, because of all the interest in the things that we're doing on the AI side. We're going to have a lot to talk about with that in Q2.
And I want to talk about the latest AI and tech contracts, but before we get to that, I want to just finish off on Q1. Was this an outlier quarter, where everything just went perfect, or do you expect to contribute? And I'm not asking for projections, by the way, obviously, but do you expect Q2 and Q3 to continue to remain strong and put up some pretty good numbers, or is this just a one crazy quarter where everything just happened to go perfect?
No, this is continuing even into Q2. So it's even expanded a bit in Q2. So we can expect, from what we see, it is continuing. That being said, I mean, we don't know when this pandemic's going to end. So eventually the COVID is going to stop, right? Eventually, but it's not right now. And, I think the real message here is that we're taking what we've learned through through COVID and through the health business and applying that knowledge back into the AI in a marriage, right? And you're going to start seeing some of these products coming out and being announced as early as Q2. So we've made a lot of inroads through that, and it's led to, as I said earlier, we're expanding on that front because of the interest in what is coming up. So we're taking all the performance that we've had on that side of the business, on the COVID side, reinvesting it onto the AI side. And that's going to allow us a lot more room to move and a lot more room to grow and expand.
Well, let's talk about that, because the AI is obviously what was the core of the business. I think still is, even though the COVID test kits are really contributing an enormous percentage of the revenue right now. You signed contracts for approximately $550,000. What I found interesting about that was, okay, that number is a nice number, uh, especially when you compare to what you've been able to do in the past. But what I liked is this: it's agreements spanning 5 different entities, 3 inside of Latte, plus the Incheon International Airport Corporation and the Shinhan Financial Group. How
Mhm.
important is this in continuing your AI validation around the world? Because these are global now.
Well, this is really, you're starting to see, these are the beginning contracts, right? So when you saw the contracts last year and we talked about these are, pilots and things like that, that's what's happening here. So inside Latte, for instance, when we do, we move into new groups, they give you a small contract because they don't want to just jump in with 2 feet right out into the deep. And then those contracts lead to bigger contracts, which was what we saw last year with the contracts, with Latte, with Samsung. And so if we execute on these fronts, on these 5 new fronts that we have now, then we can expect that those will expand. And so that's the strategy we've been employing for the past year, and it is working. So we now have, our hands in 5 new companies. We have to, the job of, Datametrex now is to execute, prove our value to them, and then land those multi-million-dollar contracts like we've done in the past. And that's where we see this going, and that's what we're aiming for.
Um, there are going to be a lot of new people, Marshall, who are tuning into Datametrex for the first time because of this massive number. So they may not know about how important the Latte relationship is. So do you mind giving us a 60-second review for everybody so they know, who Latte is, the status of your current relationship, which is a really great status, so that people can really get a handle on how important this relationship is.
Sure, certainly. So Latte Corporation is one of the largest conglomerates in South Korea. They own hundreds of subsidiaries, and so stuff like Canon copiers, 7-Eleven stuff, and a bunch of other things you wouldn't recognize because you're not Korean. But what we did with them, they were our first large private sector client in Korea, and we employed a land and expand strategy with them to expand throughout their businesses. And so we did a small project for them. They really liked it. This led to a larger contract, which has then led us to be on their preferred vendors list for all their subsidiaries. So that's what we're seeing here is, several more of their subsidiaries picking up our tech and going, okay, let's give it a run. And that's what we've been doing with them. So if you look them up, you'll see Latte Corporation, multi-billion-dollar, corporation. Additionally, we have the same relationship with Samsung, who everybody should know.
Yeah, and Latte, by the way, for everybody at home, spelled Lotte. If you need to look them up. So you've now announced 3. So the 5 entities include 3 divisions of Latte: Highmart Global Logistics, which I'm assuming is logistics, and Latte Aluminum.
Mhm.
How deep do you think you guys can, because you just said a minute ago they've got hundreds of subsidiaries. Is this just the beginning of what may be a real deep penetration into the Latte group?
Well, I think that penetration is already underway, and this is just fruits of the labor. As I said earlier, they put us on the preferred vendor list after they saw the work. So when one of these subsidiaries starts looking for, say, artificial intelligence work around, text mining or something of that nature, or a problem, right, with NLP, natural language processing, they go to the parent corp. Parent corp refers them over to people in the preferred vendor group, which we are a part of. So as these problems arise within their subsidiaries, and it's only going to accelerate as AI expands throughout the different verticals of the world, because AI is finding its way into everything. I expect to see more and more of this inside Latte and inside any other private companies where we employ the land and expand strategy.
We've been banging the table on artificial intelligence, just like we're ahead of everybody on esports. I think we're ahead of everybody on artificial intelligence 4 or 5 years ago. There's no doubt that artificial intelligence is going to play a critical, granular role in almost everything we touch in the next 10, 15 years. It's going to keep growing and growing. So would you expect the artificial intelligence side to some point catch up to the COVID side? When you look at, because your quote says Datametrex continues to grow its core business. We're starting to see the reduction in cycle time for AI. So
that's right. Absolutely. And, I'm hoping to start realizing parts of that this year. We're finally in a position to really push the go button on that. And that's what we're doing internally. So we will have some announcements around this in Q2. But I can't say anything until they're, absolutely firmed up and ready, but there's definitely some stuff coming down the pipe. But again, the COVID stuff has really given us a leg up. It's really shored us up financially. It's allowed us to shed a lot of debt. We shed a lot of debt this quarter. And a lot of the sins of the past, so to speak, are now being erased. And this puts us, in a much better financial position, a much more stable financial position, and in a much better position to help both ourselves and our shareholders.
The other two groups, Incheon International Airport Corporation, Shinhan Financial Group. It's not that we have to, we don't have to go into a deep dive about them per se, but what I want to ask is this another indication that Datametrex is starting to be known around the world? So if maybe you could talk to us about how your brand is growing when it comes to artificial intelligence around the world with big corporations, especially on the other side of the world.
Yeah, this is definitely us, getting out by word of mouth. That's what's happening here. So, with the Shinhan Group, they have a product called JobMind. I don't know if you've ever seen it or not, but it is it's an investment consulting service, and it's all AI powered. And so they're looking at our technology and how do we adapt that to work inside JobMind. And that all this comes to us because our brand is getting out there, right? People are starting to see it, and we've just moved that into Europe, right? So we've got the European apparatus set up, and that's rolling along. When we're in talks with a couple large European firms along the same size as Latte and Samsung. So if something materializes there, we'll definitely be talking about it. And we're starting that up both back here, also in Canada and the US. So this working with companies like Latte and, being able to show a successful track record with a company like that, that's not, a 3-month success. This has been going on, for a year now, right? So we have a longer successful track record, allows us to approach these other companies and say, look, we can actually do this. We're not just some startup with a pitch deck. I've got a history. I can show you what we've done, and I can show you we've done it with some of the largest players on the planet, right? So that's a real big leg up for us.
Devil's advocate. Is there a chance you could become a victim of your own success? because AI, the demand for AI is literally growing every day, literally every day. I know Agoracom is starting to look into AI and how we can apply it to the things that we do. How do you keep up if you remember that famous IBM commercial during the dot-com days where a small company is looking at a sales meter, real-time sales, and they're happy. And then as it started to spin out of control, they realized, oh my goodness, how are we going to keep up with this? How do you stay ahead of this, Marshall? How do you make sure that you've got enough people to handle the pipeline as it grows? Because it definitely appears like it is.
Well, we have the right leadership in place to handle that. So, the leadership that's in here now has handled problems like that in the past. You can look at, go on my LinkedIn and check it out if you want to, and make up your own mind. It's a problem I'm looking forward to. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, it's a great problem to have, no doubt about that.
As far as that is concerned, keeping the right people in place, this has to do with, how do you staff? How do you keep up with, the latest trends? How do you keep up with the latest technology? And, one of the things that's one of my mentors told to me at one point in time, a guy by the name of Marty Abbott, who built, a small thing called PayPal. He told me,
hey, I thought Elon Musk built PayPal.
No. It was Peter Thiel and his group, but Marty Abbott was his tech guy. And anyway, he says, everybody always claims they're hiring the best people, but they don't. They're always hiring the best people, within a 50-kilometer radius, because they want to put a cramp in their lifestyle and make them come into the office. He said, that's not the best people. He says, you're going to find the best people worldwide. So you bend your culture to adapt to that, and you will have the best people. And we've already done that, So we're in a position to pick up talent anywhere in the world we can find it, and we're going to get the best we can find.
Marshall, congratulations, man, on a milestone day. I don't even, I've been doing this for 24 years, and $19 million in revenue for one quarter. We're up 2,200%. Net income of $9.5+ million in one quarter was up 1,425%. Unbelievable. Congratulations to you and your team. And I'm pretty sure I can say this with confidence. I speak on behalf of all shareholders of Datametrex when we say thank you and congratulations. Last word to you on what you want to say to your shareholders before we sign off.
I just wanted to say thanks. It's been a rough road. When everybody came in, when I came in, and then we put new staff in place, we weren't in the best spot. But for those of you that stuck through it over the past year and a half, congratulations and thanks for being there.
Oh, and by the way, sorry, I'd be remiss if I didn't notice. I know I said that was the last thing, but if I didn't say, you're now starting to communicate with investors every Monday on the Datametrex verified forum on Agoracom. Why do you think that's important, especially given the fact that we have so many different platforms out there now? Why is that important for you to be communicating and for the investors to kind of start engaging with you?
Well, it's important because of what you just said. It's verified. All right. So if it's coming through that forum, it's coming from me. And it's not just somebody impersonating me, which happened the other week, by the way, on another forum. So somebody pretending to be me started trying to post and stuff, and some of the shareholders picked up on it, and they're like, that doesn't sound like Marshall. So if you're at Agoracom, it's a real deal. So if you want, that's going to be the only forum that I'm actually actively participating in. So if you want to talk to me on a forum, I'll be there, answering through on Mondays. I can't answer everything, but I will answer what I can. And, like I said, it's me.
Yep. And that's going to be deeply appreciated. Yeah. Your function isn't to suddenly answer every single question people have, but more just to shape the narrative, answer some important questions about things that may, general investors may have, and everyone's going to appreciate it. So for everyone who's watching, make sure you get to the Datametrex hub on Agoracom, hit discussion forum, and you're going to see Marshall right there, verified with his avatar and the check mark, and then and make sure you take advantage of that. Marshall, thanks for joining us today, buddy. Congratulations.
Thanks, George. Glad to be here.
For everybody at home, you've been watching or you've been listening by podcast on Spotify, Google, Apple, your favorite podcast platform, to Marshall Gunter, CEO of Datametrex, trades on the venture under DM, on the OTCQB under DTMXF, or friends in Europe on Frankfurt under D4G. For those of you who are new, because you've seen this massive headline and said, who are these guys? If you didn't know about them already, you've got to do your due diligence. That's the part that we can't tell you. You've got to do it yourself. Two ways to do that. First, get over the Datametrex hub in Agoracom. The profile section there neatly lays out, very smartly and in layman's terms, lays out what Datametrex is, because there's a lot of moving parts here, especially with the artificial intelligence side. And we want to make sure you've got a good understanding of what the company does. Then either from there, or you can see the URL right above Marshall, head over to the Datametrex website and do your deep dive due diligence. If you believe in the future of artificial intelligence, which you should, and if you believe in the results that the company's been putting up, fiscal 2020 was a great success. Q1 dwarfed that. Then it behooves you to do your due diligence to find out if Datametrex is going to be one of the big players in artificial intelligence. Just don't say we didn't tell you so 12 months from now. Have a great day. See you next time.